Hi, I'm John Pulo, managing editor of CigarAdvisor.com, and we're back to play our favorite game, 5 cigars that made my career. And this time, we're bringing it to Rafael Nodal.
How are you, my friend?
Great to see you, my
Thank
friend.
you for having me here, guys.
It's good to see you.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
We're here with Gary Korb and Fred Lunt, who are also going to pitch in some of the picking of Rafael's brain as we go through the different blends and the different cigars that have helped put Rafael on the map. His first cigar, maybe a real blend that turned the corner and opened his eyes to something else. So we're going to learn a lot about what went into making Rafael, and chances are, we always say it's 5 cigars, but we end up talking about much more than 5 cigars.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but we'll start.
it's hard to summarize it in 5, but we'll try.
Right, and because eventually we'll go off on a tangent and say, oh, well, that one was really good. Or, oh, I don't remember this one, that was really good. So if we were to go ahead and start off and say, just take a look back, and what was one of the first cigars that really pointed you in the direction of where you're headed now?
The first one is very easy because that cigar is the Perdomo La Tradición Cubana. That was the first cigar that I tried. Actually, my friend and my partner Hank Bishop took me to this little place in Little Havana, and he wanted me to meet this guy where he bought his cigars. And being Cuban, my partner Hank thought that, hey, you have to smoke cigar, which I didn't. And I purchased my first cigar in that little place, and it was the time was called Nick's, and that was Nick Perdomo place. Right. I bought my first cigar, and I smoked my first cigar that day, bought a full box, took it home, and I fell in love with it. And that was the Perdomo La Tradición Cubana, a square box press cigar, fantastic.
So that was your first cigar?
That was my first cigar ever, and one that I still remember until today.
What year was this?
Wow, that was somewhere in 1999. 1999. And
that was a very good cigar back then, too.
I met Nick Perdomo. I met his wife, Janine, his family there in Little Havana. I was in Flagler by the Palmetto, and I that was my first cigar. I fell in love, and from there on, like the rest of the story, that's how I got into the cigar business.
Remember the size?
Yes, it was a big size, and I don't remember the name, but it was I will say right now it was like a Churchill size box press, a little bit shorter maybe than the Churchills. It was probably about 6 to 6.5 inches. Fantastic.
Because he usually names his toros like Epicure.
Well, he had the names, and at the time, and I don't remember the actual size. But you know what? I'm gonna go one day. Now that you mentioned, I'm gonna go one day and ask Nick what size that was. But that again, my first cigar, my first experience.
And what do you remember about it?
Well, to tell you the truth, a lot of emotions came to me because cigars represent Cuba. I'm Cuban. I left Cuba when I was 15 back in 1980, but I never smoked. My family never smoked cigars or cigarettes for that matter. And I smoked cigarette when I was a little kid, trying here and there, and you know the story. Right. And cigarettes in Cuba, by the way, were very, very strong. They were used dark tobacco. At the time, it was a brand called Populares, no filter, and that was like dark tobacco, black tobacco for cigars.
Really? They weren't made with Turkish tobacco?
No, it was another American blend.
Domestic?
It was This is the real deal. Very dark, very strong cigar. And I was maybe 14, 15 years old when I tried them. And so that really, smoking that cigar, I was able to smoke that cigar, but I was able to smoke that cigar with Nick Perdomo sitting right there, and that told me how to light the cigar. I saw so much passion and so much love for what he was doing that I immediately got home that day, and I said, this is what I want to do. And just from that cigar, And I bought my first box of cigar, and I think I smoke a lot today, but I think I smoked the whole full box within, I think it was a Saturday and Sunday I smoked the full box of cigar.
Do you remember?
That's how much I love
Remember what
it.
you paid for that box? It had to be under $100.
It was a little bit over 100.
Oh, it was okay, because they were very fine cigars.
Yeah, oh,
I know that.
fantastic cigar. And I had the box until not too long. As a matter of fact, my kids used that box to keep pencils and things like that. Yeah. And I remember a square box, very.
And you've cultivated quite a friendship with Nick over the years.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, he is the one that got me to this journey, which had become a very important part of my life, of course. And then Nick ended up moving later on across my house, so we became neighbors. And I, love his family, his kids. It's just an amazing family. So Nick has been an inspiration not only on the cigars, which it is on the cigar as well, but as a family person, very family oriented. I knew his father very well. I know his brother and many members of the family. So yeah, Nick has been an inspiration not only on the cigars, but the whole family as a person, what a person should be. Yeah.
I was sitting with him a few weeks ago outside here, and he was talking about his son's upcoming wedding, and he was talking about his daughter. She just graduated, and this fellow that she's been going out with, and he's known this young fellow his whole life. He and his daughter have been friends, since high school or something, maybe more. And he says, when my daughter brought home that boyfriend, I really wanted to hate the guy, but I can't because he's a good kid.
Fantastic kids they are. So that was my first cigar. Later on, I got into actually, it made me started on the cigar. I started on internet site back in 1999 selling cigars on the internet, and then ended up in working with Oliveros as a consultant. Later on, I bought the brand. So my second cigar will be the Oliveros Gran Reserva, which it was made with Nick, our old people, because that's who I knew. And I started working with Oliveros. At the time, Oliveros was making mostly flavor cigars, and had the Lone Lady, vanilla, and many other flavors. And I wanted a regular cigar, and I went to Nick, and we came out with the Oliveros Gran Reserva. So that will be my second cigar. But then my journey continued developing, and I right away I started getting a love for blending a different tobacco. So I will have to say that my third cigar of all time that really made me who I am today was the Oliveros XL for Men, and had really a name that many people told me, hey, that sounds like a perfume, that stuff.
I was going to ask you about that because I was going through. I keep a lot of the bands from the cigars I smoke, and I was gifted an Oliveros XL, probably in 2001, 2002.
That's when we started. Yeah.
And I just came across it not that long ago, and knowing the history of the Oliveros brand, I was like, I wonder if he'll be surprised that I even still remember that.
Yeah.
But that was like one of the first big ring cigars.
Big ring cigars. We did it in 60, 63, 55. And then if you look at the band, at the time many people told me, well, it was very minimalist. It has the XL, and for men, very minimalist in modern. That's one of the first boxes that we actually got painted. All the boxes at the time were wood and things. Right. There was paint. We had to use car paint because there was no other paint that I knew how to use it for boxes. So I had to go through a process of putting like a gray fill first, and then like you paint a car. It's amazing. And so I had a lot of new things. But more than that, in that particular cigar, I use a blend of which is amazing because at the time, those type of different tobaccos were not used. We use a Brazilian Matafina wrapper. We use a broadleaf binder. We use tobacco from Dominican, Nicaragua, and Honduran. So it actually was a 5-country blend that we created, and in big ring sizes. At the time, I have also another person that I really enjoy so much, and really admire so much, and it happened today, is a very close friend of mine as well, Ernesto Perez Carrillo, a la Gloria Cubana, and then he came out with a Series R, right? And it's also some of the first big ring cigar.
Yeah,
right?
that was the first big ring.
Right. And I fell in love with that style of big ring cigars, and there were not too many people doing it. And that's something that I wanted. So the XL, so you had one. As a matter of fact, I was traveling not long ago in middle of Oklahoma, and a person brought me an XL for men. And the next cigar that I'm going to tell you now, which is probably my second cigar, which was the Oliveros King Havana. I continued my journey on the Oliveros and I went to Nicaragua. It was my first Nicaraguan cigar, made the Plasencia factory, Oliveros King Havana, which is, after I started learning about tobacco, one of the things that I really wanted to do was the Cubanesque flavor. That it's a word that is used now, but it's basically trying to imitate, if you want, or trying to recreate, if you will, some of the Cuban tobacco flavors using different types of tobaccos, and that was I would say that's my number 4. Yeah. And if you have to say 5, then go ahead.
Yeah, because I want to jump in there because a lot of people just throw the word around, Cubanesque. Yeah. To you, what does Cubanesque taste like?
Well,
because
yes,
it's subjective.
It is subjective, but Cuban as an origin has a tremendous amount of great different soil, great seeds that we use also now in Honduras, Nicaragua, and Dominican. But I will say, not long ago I created a cigar called La Boheme, and that for me was the epitome of the Cubanesque flavors. And what it was is, I remember the aroma of my grandfather smoking the Cuban cigars. They were all Cubans, They're smoking the cigars in a little park near my house. And that aroma and that flavor was unique, I believe. And so when you say about Cubanesque, it's just a different type of flavors that reflects the type of tobacco and flavors and aroma. I mean, we were here having lunch today, and I was working with some new blends that I'm working on. And one of the things that you mentioned, you were next to me, said, wow, that has a great aroma. Well, for me, the aroma on the cigars are amazing. It's necessary for you to really enjoy the whole experience. And that flavor and that aroma of Cuban cigar, I think, is very unique. And not that it's better or worse, it's just different. It's just a different origin, different characteristics of the tobacco. And so when I say Cubanesque, it's those flavor characteristics that are common on the Cuban cigars.
Right. And there is no imitating, because even though the seeds are the same, it's the soil and the weather really that really have the most effect on the way the tobacco is going to taste.
Right.
Also, but when it comes to aromas, I remember when you were telling us when you were here some time ago about the La Boheme, you wanted that smell that like your grandfather's cigar, and something about aromas you don't forget. So you knew when you had it that it was right.
I didn't know how to do it.
You just know.
I didn't know how to do it, right?
Right.
I didn't know how to do it. But I knew.
But you knew when you got there.
I knew what I had, right?
Right.
And it's many times. I don't know if happens to you when you have some food, or you go to a restaurant, or your wife is cooking, or you're cooking, and all of a sudden you have some smell that remind you of your grandmother or your mother cooking, absolutely, and things like that. And it gets like that, and that's what happened in that case. I didn't know, but however, what I knew though, I knew that none of the cigars that I was making had that aroma.
Right.
Had great aromas, but didn't have that. And so I tried to recreate that. And so that's what Cuban is for me.
Let me back up a little bit. And you said when you had really gone all in with Oliveros, that was when you got interested in blending. So was there somebody that taught you what you know now, or was it just a matter of looking over somebody's shoulder? or was it, or was it, I know what I want, and I know that these things have these characteristics? How did you go down that road of blending?
Yeah, well, I think that had to do with a lot had to do with my music background.
Okay.
And I love composition. I studied music, and composition was one of the areas that I wanted to concentrate. Because if you're a musician, Gary, you get 7 notes, basic notes, and from there on you do variations. And every single music that you have, except summation and different scales, but basically you have the same notes, and you create different things, playing with the timing, or playing with different combinations of music. So I also like to eat, in case you haven't noticed. I love to eat, and I love to create or taste new flavors on my food. So I knew those two combinations of creating was possible in the cigar. So when I started going, I'm learning about tobacco and about the different possibilities that flavors. So for me, there wasn't a right or wrong, and this is how I approach my music, right? When you start composing, sometimes you're looking for something specifically, or sometimes it comes to you, but you know that it's different than everything else you heard. And so tobacco, I approached it from zero. Didn't have a specific expectation when I was doing the blending. So this is creation. And one of the things that I like to compose, and when I started playing piano, which we had an event one day here and I played the piano. I'm not a great pianist, but I compose music.
You're selling yourself short.
Well, no, not. But I compose music that I can play, and there's no right or wrong. This is what it is, because this is what I compose. So in the cigars, what I decided to do at one point is blend cigars on the taste that I wanted. I was not doing it for the consumer. By the way, I did it like that, and I failed. I tried to make cigar for other people. Oh, people are having a mild cigar. Let's make a mild cigar. People are doing this. Let's do this. And I failed. It wasn't until I decided, hey, I'm going to make cigar for me. If people like it, fantastic. If they don't like it, great, because I'm not making it for them, I'm making it for me. And by the way, that was when I started, being a little successful.
Well, I think, talking about music, I think when you hear a good song, it's good, and you hear it on the radio a lot.
Right.
And I think it goes with anything. When you compose something, I don't think it's even an ego thing. You just know it's good.
Right.
You just know it's got something, and you put it out there.
And
other people will like it.
You're right, and it's important. But at the end of the day, it's what is meaningful to you as a composer.
Sure.
What you write to you. And it's great that other people like it, and sometimes you're right. You do a music and you say, wow, I have something special, right? It sometimes been more or less than the others that you did.
That's true.
But it's something special for you. So what I decided on the cigar is I'm going to blend things for me. And my journey in the cigar industry, I have changed my palates, right? And I have changed at different times of the day or different times of my journey. I had different tastes. But what I have become is true to my taste, and what I develop is what I like for that moment and for that time. And that has been my philosophy.
But this is kind of like the composer's challenge too, because you can always tweak the song to make it a little better. You can always write an extra passage in the piece. How do you know, because you already have something good, but you're thinking, I can make it just a little, how do you know it's time to put the coda on it?
That is true. That is true, because I can tell you, I have blend that I continue to, okay, maybe I can make it better like this and better like this. And it gets to the point, okay, this has to come to the market, right? We have to, is it right again? So many times, the truth is, many times, I continue saying, wait a minute, I can make it a little bit, I can tweak it a little bit, but you can be forever doing that, and obviously we need to finish at one point, but the good thing is, whenever I feel like maybe I could have done it a little bit different, well, I'm gonna have a new chance with a new blend, and let's start from zero again, and hopefully be to the challenge to do it. But you're right, that's the most difficult thing. Finalizing something and say, okay, but maybe I can. But you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Has there ever been like a cigar that you have made, but you want to go back and like remix it? You know what I mean? You want to put
Many.
a new. Say, this
Many.
cigar would be great with this wrapper on it. I got a new wrapper on
Many.
it. This would, yeah.
Many.
Really?
And La Solera that we're smoking is one of the samples.
Really?
Right. So La Solera is a method of aging, for example. And it's basically used in wines, in rums, and things like that. So normally wine you have wine from 2000, from 2001, 2002. But in the sherry, in the southern part of Spain, what I learned, Solera, they mix all the years, and they start bottle from that mix. And they continue to put more from the new year, they continue to bottle. So the idea is always to have the same, trying to have the same uniformity every year versus having great years and bad years. So I took that idea and I created the Solera method of aging. And so we took tobacco 3 years old, 5 years old, and 7 years old. We mix it together and we put it in a barrel, keep it for 12 to 24 months, and then we do the cigars. So I started with the Sun Grown, which is the yellow one in the box, and did that. And I said, well, what about if I do the Corojo wrapper? How it tastes? Wow, this is not bad. Same blend. Okay, what about if we try now in a Maduro San Andres wrapper? Let's try. I have the San Andres. Let's put it. Not bad. And well, now see, we're getting crazy. Let's try the Connecticut shade, right? Wow, not bad. He said, wow, which one we release? And so I said, well, let's start with one, but let's release all of them. And I can tell you, I had many more combinations that I wanted to do, but I was running out of colors, you know.
Yeah, right.
And but the idea is, you're right. This was a perfect example of a project that we took based on the actual aging process, adjustment to the cigar industry and the tobacco processing, and then having different wrappers and which one we had to decide. And I had endless sleepless night saying which one should I go first. And that's when I said, listen, I'll do all four because they're all good.
You know what's interesting about that is because some of the other blenders we've talked to, they usually start with the wrapper. They go, I found this wrapper. He said, I'm going to make a cigar with this. And it was a completely opposite thing with you. You said, I got these core tobaccos here, and I'm going to start with that.
Right.
And I just thought that was very interesting.
Well, I'm very unorthodox in some of my aspects, and I guess
okay.
that the music part. But again, when you have famous musicians throughout history, everyone does a little bit different, and at the end is the product. People may or may not like it, but that's how. And so many projects I can start with. I found, like in the case of which is going to be my fifth one. I actually had a couple of more. I'm glad you're not limiting me to 5. But the other one was my first aging room. Came my M356. It was my first small batch product. That was the first transition. Before that, it was a swag, Oliveros swag, and then immediately we came to the aging room, and the aging room took off because of that first blend. And that was all tobacco from Dominican, which is at the time, not many people use Dominican wrapper. Dominican doesn't grow a lot of wrappers. And we did a whole Dominican puro. I like the idea of purity and specific, and the small batch was one like that. And then we did the Quattro, and that really helped me put on the map.
I was going to ask you about the Quattro because you started with the Perdomo box press, and then you came back around again to another box press.
Right.
So what made you really, want to go for the box press? Because that was, it was number 2 for the year, but number 1, because number 1 was Cuban that year.
Right.
So it was really like number 1 in America.
Right.
Technically.
Yeah, some people like to say free world, but
the free world.
Yeah. Well, if you look at our cigar industry, we might not be able to say the free world one of these days. But anyway, it was funny because I did the M356, and then I knew that I started with Perdomo Cigar, which is, Nick used a lot of the square box press cigars. Cuba had a lot of history, some old Cuban box press, the way they put it in the boxes, and they became kind of square because put it on the box. So I knew for that one, that I wanted the box press, and it was funny because you mentioned how you start sometimes. So this was in this case the Quattro, the aging room Quattro F55 was in that similar way.
Okay.
I found distribution in Germany for my aging room because the M356, the first one that we released was rated 94. I got a number 13 or 14 of that year, and I got distribution in Germany, and I went to a warehouse. I found this wrapper. It was in Indonesia, a wrapper from the year 2003, and I took that wrapper to Dominican, and I started with that wrapper. So that was the whole idea, because I had this unbelievable wrapper, extremely well aged, and I did a blend in that one based on that particular wrapper.
Right.
So that was created with that, and I knew I wanted to go box press just because I remember from my beginnings having the box press cigars, and box press really changes the dynamic of the smoking. If you think about it, in a round cigar you have the air flow into throughout the cigar. But when now you put another pressure and you put a box press, you apply even more pressure. Now the air goes to different channels, because this is not a machine doing this. It's handmade tobacco box press. So now the air goes to different ways, and now you capture flavor from different tobaccos. So a box press changes the dynamic of the flavor profile and the experience of smoking. And I knew by design that I wanted to do a blend for that wrapper, and I wanted to do a box press because of my beginning. And that was the first box press cigar that we ever made.
You mentioned nobody was really doing Dominican wrappers. I think for a long time...
Not too many people, yeah.
Right. I think for a long time people always had the idea that Dominican cigars, mellow, easygoing, not a lot of flavor. You break onto the scene with aging room and everything else, and it completely blew away the whole idea of Dominicans being mellow, still smooth,
Right.
but a whole different flavor experience. What was that a conscious decision? Was that just like, let's just see what Dominican tobacco can really do?
Right. So throughout this journey, I was learning more and more about tobacco and fermentation and growing with great masters like Plasencia and things like that. And I knew, like you saying, that Dominican was making very mellow cigar. It was always known for fantastic flavor, aroma, but not very strong. As a matter of fact, the first cigar we did outside the Oliveros line was the swag, and the tagline for the swag was, "This is not your father's old Dominican cigar. This is not your father's old Dominican cigar," because we did it more body, and what I knew that it could be done because of the blending process. So my palate was already developing at a stronger, more flavorful, I will say more complex flavors that I wanted in my palate, and that's what I started creating. So, you go to a restaurant or you cook at home and you start playing with all these ingredients, right? And you give the same ingredient to different people, and you'll get different tastes depending on how they mix it and the amounts and all that. And so I knew we did some tested, we did some different trials and many errors. And but I guess if you don't make errors, you don't move on to the next. Many cigars that I spent days working and then didn't like. And I found Hochi Blanco, my partner in Dominican Republic, and Hochi has been growing tremendous amount of great tobacco, and so it was very easy, because at the end of the day, just like in food and in drinks, everything starts with the ingredients, right? Mm-hmm. The ingredients has to be the best, and it has to be natural, and all those things. And when you start with great tobacco, it's very easy to start mixing it and great taste and get taste. So I think it had to do with my palate already developing to more flavor. And like I said, I like to eat and I like to experience different flavors. You know, I'm not one person that says, oh, okay, only Cuban food and that's what it sticks. I like Indian and Italian and all these things, and then different parts of Italy. And, so Spanish food, and so you start looking for different flavors, and that's what I was looking for, mostly to satisfy my palate.
So bring us home. We got 4 down, 1 to go. Well, sort of the 5 cigars that made Rafael Nodal.
And lastly, I have to say some of the newer cigars right now that we are doing. One that is you have not tasted yet because it just came into the market. This is, as I mentioned before, I'm doing the blends now for Altadis USA, and we have I have released since I've been there the Trinidad Santiago, the Monte Cristo Epigraph Cure, and the Romeo San Andres. And I have to say, the Romeo San Andres is a cigar that breaks a lot of barriers, and it's very important to me because it's part of my developmental stage in testing and blending and that. And the Romeo San Andres is made at Tabacalera Ella Fernandez, and Ella is a great friend. We incorporate tobacco from Nicaragua. We also incorporate tobacco from Dominican Republic, from Hochi Blanco, which is tobacco that I'm used to work with. And for that blend, for me, mixing Dominican and Nicaragua, and then using a very well-aged triple fermented wrapper from San Andres, from the Turen family, which is also part of the family of Altadis. They provide us with a lot of wrapper. So bringing all these components, but again in a more, what I will say, more complexity in the flavors and modern, if you like, blends. So that cigar right now, the latest one that I created, and again breaks a lot of barriers, a lot of different things. It's not a cigar that you said, oh, this is like, yeah, another cigar from Rafael.
Yeah, I had one just within the last week, and I really like it a lot. Well, I'm a big fan of San Andreas, the Dura wrapper. So
San Andres
that was
is very unique.
Hook for me right there.
Right, because.
And I said, yeah, this is definitely different.
So yeah, using tobacco from different regions in Nicaragua, but blending it with Dominican, where I started. You know, for me, symbols are very important in my life. Everything that I do has a reason, and it has a why we do it. And using tobacco from Hochi with different regions in Nicaragua, with this San Andres, working with Ella Fernandez, making the cigar, it really brings a lot of circles together in my life, and it's part of my whole journey. And they said represent a lot to where I am now as a blender, as a tobacco person.
When you're sitting, like we're doing now, we're taping something, but when you're sitting around on your little veranda there in
you see
Miami,
you see my
the pictures.
Facebook, right?
Yeah. And you're enjoying a cigar, and maybe your dog is over here, and you're just like
Yes.
taking it easy. But generally speaking, when you have that moment of enjoying a great cigar, is it the cigar or is it the moment?
Well, yeah, that's a really loaded question.
Because there's millions of cigars you could choose from, right?
There's a million of cigars that we can choose from, and we also can create the cigar for that moment.
Right.
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination. One makes the moment, or one makes the cigar. And I think one definitely the moment. And I'll give you an example. We were at the Tabacalera Garcia. We make the Altadis, many of the Altadis portfolio products, and we were sitting there, and we were just looking at the sea, at the Caribbean Sea, in a fantastic restaurant with great company, great music in the background, and smoking some cigars. And I was telling my fellow guys, listen, I don't care what cigar you smoked right now, it will be fantastic, right? Because the moment was amazing. The sunset, the water, right, all the elements. But then, now can you imagine that amazing moment with an amazing cigar, right? Everything goes over. So I will say the short answer is I think both. The moment
agree,
and the
yeah.
cigar impact each
The
other.
company, everything.
Yeah.
as well.
But by the way, when you see me sitting there in Facebook and putting it
I'm
in
envious,
social
that's
media,
what I
right?
am.
Well, it's a great excuse to my wife because I had to tell you, it's
Yeah.
amazing. I hope she's not looking at this because
Oh,
she asked me, hey, these are the things, right? I travel a lot, as you know. So I'm home Sunday. These are the things that you have to do. The pool has this problem. The gate has this problem. Say, I have work to do. I get 2 cigars, I get a little bit of rum, and I sit down and say, I have to work. And this is work. So before I was doing that, my wife will say, hey, come on, get out of your cigar and let's do the chores. But now I just a workaholic. I just work a lot, and I need to do these things.
So she gets the honey-do list.
Yeah, because I am working.
Right.
That's my type of life.
I'm coming to work for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
John be the pool boy.
Absolutely.
That's fine. I've been called worse. So it's interesting that you keep using the word journey. And it's a nice trip down memory lane all the way back to 1999, starting with Perdomo, all the way through today with some of the different things like Romeo, San Andre, and we hope that the journey continues a very long road and a very happy road.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. Hopefully 5 years we'll be talking again and we'll continue talking about the journey.
Very good.
I think we will.
The 5 cigars that made Rafael Nodal. Here with Cigar Advisor.